Okay, so today I'm going to be doing a build that features mostly high-end equipment. It's actually 4 pieces of high-end equipment and 2 pieces of kind of whatever you want to put in there. I use, Alpha Bridge because of the medkit capacity and a pairing with the Tenacious Mask, but, the 2-piece gear set is open. This is in response to a lot of requests from subscribers to me saying, hey, can you do something that has more high-end stuff? Possibly 6 high-ends. I don't really see a lot of merit to the 6 high-end build because the knee pads really don't have something that I would consider to be beneficial, the holster as well, but there are 4 things that are very nice and when paired together can create kind of a cool build that definitely I have not seen before. And while it's not meta breaking by any means, it is functional and it actually has a lot of survivability that I want to talk about as well. So it's a really cool build and I'll get right into it. I'll talk about all the pieces that I'm using in the high-end form and then, the gear set pieces. The weapon in particular is something that pairs very nicely. And then I'll go over my skills, my character sheet, all that stuff. And then I'll throw it to some gameplay where you can see how the build functions. So to start off with, I would say go with the Vigorous chest piece. That's what I'm choosing to run here. It works very well. It's a stamina piece, gives the Vigorous talent, grants an overheal to all healing skills, which allows me to use Booster Shot instead of Overdose, which allows me to get mitigation and in turn kind of counter this, plaguing shotgun meta of one-shots, which is extremely strong right now. So that's what I'm using. It has a really great stamina roll, some EDR, some armor. Again, it's most important to have armor as a major attribute on your chest piece. There's nothing really better to roll there. It's going to allow you to achieve armor cap quite easily without having to use gear mods and stuff unless you absolutely need to. And it's extremely important. Minor attribute of ammo capacity. Looking forward to the fact that they're going to probably be nerfing or changing, they've already stated, the paramedic pack and the police backpack. I'm starting to stack my gear more and more to take that into consideration, and that's another reason why I have the Alpha Bridge, but I'll go over that in a minute. Pulse duration is nice. It does pair very nicely with the build, and you are free to run either Pulse or Smart Cover. I choose to run Smart Cover specifically, but, you can run Pulse if you're going for more of a burst style, run and gun, play style, but I go for more of a positionally oriented tank style gameplay. The mods in here are Stamina with Crit Chance and Stamina with Skill Power. I would prefer Stamina with Skill Power instead of the Crit Chance, but I didn't really have a good roll, and this one gets the job done very nicely, so that's okay in that slot. Moving on to my backpack, this is a very interesting, talent that I really haven't experimented with in the past. Inventive, increase skill power by 14% while at full health. Now this pairs very nicely with Vicious, the gun talent. You're going to be at full health if you can possibly stay there and fight from your overheal. You're going to have a big increase to the amount of damage you can pump out, as well as the amount of healing you can do. So this build actually kind of revolves around timing your abilities and stuff and staying in the overheal as much as possible. Now the 14% may seem negligible, but 14% increased skill power on top of what, let's say 30,000 give or take, is actually quite a bit. And it's going to be the equivalent to having 2 mods with skill power on them or a couple of electronics pieces. It's very nice. And it's not, game-changing, like I said, it's not meta-breaking, but it is really cool to run, and I think this build is an accurate portrayal of what a lot of people have sitting in their stash, so you can definitely put together a build like this, maybe easier than you could put together a fully functional 4-piece Alpha Bridge set. So having these high ends is a realistic way that a lot of players are approaching the game, considering they don't have the time that I do or that other, hardcore players may have to farm all these different pieces. Moving on to my Savage gloves, these are by no means perfect. I have a better version right here if I were to try and run a tankier build and actually run an SMG, but I like the well-rounded style of gameplay with 3300 on both firearms and stamina, so I do have these high firearms rolled Savage gloves. Savage is a very good talent. It's not reflected on the meter statistics because the meter is actually conditional. It doesn't know if the target you're going to be firing at is out of cover or not, so it's actually an unspoken boost to your damage. And the major attributes here are not perfect. I have critical hit chance, assault rifle damage, and damage to elites. I would much prefer critical hit damage. That'd be much better. You want that perfect trio of crit chance, crit damage, and weapon damage of your main weapon type, like I always state in most of my videos. And then for skill attributes, First Aid Self-Heal is amazing. I think that's the best skill attribute to have, unless you're specifically a support build going for something like First Aid Ally Heal or, Smart Cover Damage Resilience or something like that. So moving on from there, I'm going to talk about my mask. This is one of my favorite talents on a high-end piece, Tenacious. Increase damage by 10% for 10 seconds when using a medkit. Now this allows you to stack on top of a lot more percent weapon damage increases to snapshot is what I call it, where you suddenly have a much higher damage than you normally would in an extended fight, and you can use that to your advantage if you play properly. Now I'm not the best at taking advantage of it, but the ability does exist, and when used properly, this build can be extremely potent. So it has a decent firearms roll, it has skill power in the major attribute slot. Very important to roll skill power on both your mask and your backpack. I didn't really cover that talking about my backpack, but the best in slot for both of those 2 pieces is definitely skill power. And then the minor attribute of scavenging is kind of nice, but not critical to the build. And ballistic shield health is totally irrelevant. Pro-type stamina mod, stamina and skill power, that's what I would say is the best in slot for increasing toughness as well as increasing yield in terms of damage output, because your pulse or your smart cover or whatever you're choosing to run in your secondary skill slot is going to be better, as well as your heal is going to have a shorter cooldown and heal for more. So now I'm going to talk about my 2-piece Alpha Bridge. I'm choosing to run this because of the Tenacious Mask. If I can carry around 7 medkits all the time, that's going to mean 7 different times I can receive a 10-second boost of 10% to my overall damage output and my base damage on my gun, which means my crits scale higher, and overall it's really effective. This is also a good way to counter the fact that the paramedic pack, as far as I know, is going to be phased out of the game. I don't know when they're going to do that, but this 9 medkit stacking, which I haven't been doing for a while to prepare for this, is probably going to be gone, and I think 7 is going to be the new max number. And using the Alpha Bridge to get those 7 medkits means 70 seconds, when used properly, over the course of a fight, that you have increased damage output, and you can find medkits relatively easily. I also would I would strongly suggest that people opt for critical hit damage on your pads if you can achieve the armor elsewhere. If you can't, then you can go for the roll of armor on the pads, but the critical hit damage is going to be extremely valuable. Moving on to the holster, you want to roll armor hands down. There's no exception to this. You definitely want armor as the major attribute on your holster. I have a good roll across the board on this, and First Aid Ally Heal helps me in a team play setting. So moving on from there, I'm going to talk about my weapon, which is fairly integral to the build. I'm not going to be using my secondary hardly at all. I haven't even fully modded that shotgun, but this Police M4 is what I'm choosing to use, and it has Vicious, Deadly, and Competent. Now, the two talents specifically to take note of, first is Vicious. Now, it does synergize with Deadly very well, but it also synergizes with Inventive. So you have more damage while you're in your overheal, and Inventive is also active, so you have more skill power, and it just means that you have to be timing things perfectly to be in your overheal at all times if you possibly can, and in a team play setting that's a lot easier with triage and stuff. So I will be showing gameplay where it's just me and my buddy Jay Castro. It doesn't go perfectly, but it's a good display of the survivability of the build, as well as the fact that you can dish damage when you snapshot bonuses. Deadly and Vicious synergize well, like I said, but then Competent also synergizes very well with Booster Shot. You're freed up to use Booster Shot by having the Vigorous Chest Piece, which right there gives you a net increase of 15% to your base damage. Competent gives you an additional increase of 14%, so 29 in total. On top of the Tenacious Mask, can give you 39, on top of something like Pulse or Smart Cover. Means your burst damage can actually skyrocket. You can almost double your damage output for about a 10-second period whenever you want to in an extended fight that is challenging. And if you take advantage of that properly, someone that you have previously fired at and may think, okay, they lack damage, I can face tank. As soon as you start to face tank that person, popping all these bonuses is going to allow you to actually out DPS them in a situation where you probably shouldn't be able to, and they're definitely not going to expect it. Now, in my mind, the best damage is unexpected damage, and that's exactly what this build provides. For mods, I'm going to talk about this really quickly. I have mag size, rate of fire. That's important for boosting the DPS on pretty much any gun, except for certain exceptions such as the MP7. But for this Police M4, it works very nicely. As you can see, my RPM is extremely high. My mag size is actually up at 60 because I have 100% net increase. And then for the optics, I have headshot damage, critical hit chance. That's the best in terms of raw damage output. Accuracy may inflate your meter, but it's not actually going to give you more damage, whereas this setup on the optic will. The muzzle, I have horizontal stability and stability. It is very important with a Police M4, especially with an increased rate of fire, to have a lot of stability as well as some horizontal stability, because this gun jumps around a lot. It really does. It's not the most stable gun in the world, and it has to be modded properly in order for you to land the shots that you want to land. And then for the underbarrel, I have accuracy and stability. Again, you need some accuracy, but not multiple pieces. One is sufficient here, and then as much stability as possible. This was the highest roll that I could get percentage-wise on that modifier. So that's what I'm using for a weapon. The secondary I'm not even going to cover. You can run an M1A, you can run a shotgun, whatever you feel like. It's user's preference. So now moving on to my skills, I personally run Booster Shot Heal to get the increase in damage mitigation and the increase in overall damage output. And I'm also running Smart Cover with the Recharger mod. Now what this does is it gives me a damage resistance and a damage buff. Both of those, one is at 55% and one is at 41.2%, and those paired on top of each other, if I am snapshotting all of the proper bonuses in my Smart Cover, I have more than 100% increased damage output. So someone that properly min-maxes this build can have 10-second periods where they can basically just destroy everything in their path. I have not fully done that yet, but conceptually the build is sound, and it does provide a quality yield in PvP, and I enjoy it quite greatly. So I'm going to demonstrate the snapshotting for you guys right now. If I were to take damage in a PvP encounter, boom, I took damage. I'm going to get in cover. I'm going to pop a med kit. I'm going to pop Smart Cover, and then I'm going to pop Booster Shot, and I'm going to go in and show you that I'm up at 323,000. Now, I am not going to advertise this as a 323k DPS build. It's not. The baseline DPS is well under 200,000, but using these bonuses properly, as you can see, they're slowly ticking down. And once they're gone, once I'm outside Smart Cover, it's actually going to be much, much less. It's going to be 179, but if you take advantage of these bonuses properly and you are in a locationary PvP encounter, you can start to do a lot of damage that they're not expecting. So I'm going to show again. I detonate the grenade. If I get into smart cover and demonstrate really quickly on the dummy, I'm doing about 33,000 per crit. If I pop my heal, I put down my smart cover, I pop my booster shot, and then I start to fire, and if I have a pulse from an enemy teammate, it's really good. It's almost 100% increased damage, so if I'm augmented with a maxed out pulse, it's going to be even higher. It's a really solid build. Conceptually, I like it a lot, and I really appreciate all the feedback I got from my supporters to make this, and I'm actually really glad that I gave it a chance and did so. So I'm going to flip it over to some gameplay really quick and show how it performs. Unfortunately, it is just the two of us, myself and Jay Castro, getting the footage, so we do die quite frequently, but it does demonstrate the survivability and the overall damage output when used properly. Okay, here we go. Actually, before I get into exactly how the build functions, I wanted to do a shout out really quickly to GAMERTAG Gaming. I hope I pronounced the name correctly. Right after we got this footage here, we actually encountered their squad, and it was brought to my attention, hey, that's another content creator. I was like, okay, cool. We had some really, really fun fights. Unfortunately, it was just me and Jay Castro. I wish we had a couple more. They were some great fights, though. There were some salutes exchanged at the end, some great DPS. He one-shotted me, actually, full. I'm talking 0 to 100 one-shot multiple times. So that was a solid build, quality build. And the respect was there, the salutes were there. So I would urge anyone that enjoys really quality rogue content and gameplay to check out his channel. I'm not super familiar with him, but it was a really great encounter, and it's rare to find those in Division sometimes. Not gonna lie, the Dark Zone can be a really immature and unfriendly place, so getting some really good PvP encounters is something I crave and I'm really happy about getting. But now to talk about the build and how it performs. As you can see, I am not the most, melt-worthy of characters. I don't come in here and deal hundreds of thousands of damage in 2 seconds. But what I can do is orient myself positionally to help my teammates, to give bonuses, and to stay alive. Because I have booster shot mitigating damage, I have smart cover mitigating damage. I can take advantage of increased damage output to get the enemies to back off when I need to after popping a med kit. There's a lot at my disposal. So as you can see here, we're fighting a squad. There are more people in this squad, but tagging smart cover. Some people may call it a cheese, but I just call it gameplay effective. We can actually gain the bonuses, gain the mitigation, and Castro does go down here, but I wanted to demonstrate the fact that I can survive for a while, even against sentry shotgunners. So what we have in this situation is two people using a perfectly on-meta sentry shotgun build. And I can actually tank them and survive them with positional awareness while breaking line of sight very well. And it's actually really difficult for them to kill me. I keep tagging my smart cover, I keep popping booster shot when I need to. All that mitigation paired on top of themselves and the other bonuses is going to allow me to survive a lot longer than they would probably want me to. They can't one-shot me. They're never going to one-shot me unless I'm not prepared for the encounter. And in that case, it's on me, and I actually should have been more aware. There's a few encounters here where I do end up dying, but it's a good display that if I was more, if I had better dexterity on the sticks, I would have been able to snapshot my bonuses and then kill some of these players, because once you're actually using all the bonuses, it's about a 1.5 to 2 second TTK, or time to kill, which I understand is longer than an on-meta sentry shotgun build, but you're also providing bonuses to your team. You can put the booster shot on your teammates, you can use the smart cover, and you're actually doing a lot more than just helping yourself. With a sentry shotgun build, while you can debuff the enemy targets, they're usually dead before that debuff has any value to your team. So with this build, you're actually going to help your squad out a lot more. And from a solo play perspective, if you use properly, it can definitely, yield increased survivability. So as you can see there, my smart cover is strong enough due to inventive and due to my already, high skill power based on my mask and stuff like that and my backpack, that Castro could tank that one shotgunner and then kill him. We got a little bit cocky and we ended up dying to the second shotgunner. But as you can see here, he can't kill me. They end up killing me when there's more than one of them and, when I get focus fired. But in a 1v1, even versus a strong shotgun build, he's definitely not going to be able to do what he wants to do, and that's one-shot me. I like this build a lot. I think that you will still die with it. I'm not making any unrealistic promises like, hey, put this on and you'll be invincible. But I think when used properly, this could actually be a really fun build that helps break the meta a little bit for players that have a lot of dexterity and a lot of strategy and practice with it. I'm not quite there, but I think conceptually it's a really fun time, and I'm definitely looking forward to using it more. I might use it on live stream later today or tomorrow or something like that. But as you can see now, there's a ton of them. I did pop a signature. I can survive for an extended period of time, especially when I get back up to full health. I'm getting that increased skill power, which means my cooldowns go down. There's a lot of different ways that this is going to be valuable. I didn't actually talk about my talents and things like that. I forgot to, but just really quickly, the only one that's critical is triage. Outside of that, you can use whatever you want. There are talents that are better than others. I would say critical save is very important, definitely. I would say that something like Strike Back is very nice as well. Maybe even One Is None, but there wasn't really a huge call for that. And for the character sheet, I'm not very impressive on the critical hit damage side of things, so that's why I kind of neglected to go through the character sheet with this video. But I will be able to show on stream later tonight if someone really wants to see it. So now I am going to demonstrate the time to kill because these guys were definitely disrespectful during the process. I'm testing an off-meta build and there was only 2 of us and there was a lot of other randoms helping them. But I am going to show you how it works in your smart cover, you know, popping the right bonuses. I don't even have Tenacious active, but I have a fast time to kill, as you can see there. About a 1 second TTK, and if he had been moving, of course I wouldn't have been able to land those shots, but someone that's quick on the sticks and can keep that reticle on the head can melt a player that quickly. And that's without some of the bonuses that I need. That's proccing 3 of my 4% weapon damage bonuses, and that's without anyone's pulse. That's 0 pulse active, let alone a maxed out one. You can definitely destroy players if used properly. So this guy thinks my damage output is low. Woe is him, because it isn't, and I use my bonuses properly there. I do end up dying again and getting focused down, but that's the way the Dark Zone goes. That's the way of the world. Sometimes you're going to die, and I'm okay with showing that on video and stuff. So again, I would urge everyone to try out a build like this and to experiment and to innovate. In hardcore PvP encounters, I am still going to use Sentry Shotgun. That's just the way it is. It's a very strong build. Lots of damage output. As you can see here, I get dropped by it after I was double stacked. That's more than a 30% bonus, so it's very difficult to combat, but there are ways to do it. I will still use that for hardcore PvP encounters, and I will continue to do so until it's nerfed, but this is definitely an off-meta build that I will run from time to time, and I would definitely encourage a lot of people to experiment and to innovate and to have other builds that you draw from and can use, especially something like Deadeye or this, or some kind of, you know, fringe build even that you've constructed yourself. It's going to be a lot more fun, and you're going to get a lot more enjoyment out of it when you kill a player in the Dark Zone and say, I made this build, maybe nobody else in the world runs it, and it's just something that I find value in and I'm making work. So that's a really fun feeling. Thank you everyone for watching. As always, there are some links in the description on how to support the channel and the growth that we're undertaking. If you really like the content, you want to see us across every platform and every game, please, you know, check out those links. There's a lot of ways to support. So I appreciate everyone coming here, everyone, you know, watching the video and liking and subscribing if you choose to. For more great content, we'll try and keep that flowing on a daily basis, and it's a really fun time. So thank you again. As always, thanks for supporting, and have a nice day.